The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes 1893. Episode 11. The Naval Treaty. Welcome back, fellow detectives. After witnessing how international criminal conspiracies exploited language barriers and diplomatic complexities in the Greek interpreter case, you might think you understand the scope of modern crime's global reach. But today's mystery takes us to the very heart of governmental power, where stolen state secrets threaten not just individual careers, but the balance of European politics itself. Have you ever wondered what would happen if documents so sensitive that their contents could topple governments simply vanished from the most secure offices in Whitehall? Prepare yourself for one of Holmes's most politically dangerous cases, where international espionage and personal betrayal intersect in ways that could reshape the map of Europe, and where the difference between national security and personal ruin hangs on the recovery of a single missing document. Picture yourself on a sweltering July morning in 1889, when London's summer heat makes even government offices oppressive, and the weight of imperial responsibility seems to press down on every civil servant tasked with maintaining Britain's global influence. You're accompanying Holmes and Watson to Woking, where a desperate plea for help has come from someone whose career, and possibly whose life, depends on recovering something that should never have been lost. The telegram from Percy Phelps was most urgent, Watson observes as your train carries you through the Surrey countryside toward what promises to be a case of unprecedented political sensitivity. A former schoolmate of yours, Holmes, now working in the Foreign Office, whose career has been destroyed by the theft of documents he was responsible for safeguarding. Holmes studies the correspondence with grave concern. Percy was always ambitious and talented, destined for high office if his career proceeded smoothly. But in the world of international diplomacy, a single mistake can destroy decades of careful advancement and turn promising futures into catastrophic failures. Think about this situation, detective. What kind of document could be so sensitive that its theft would instantly end a civil servant's career and potentially threaten national security? In the complex world of Victorian international relations, what secrets might be worth stealing? And who would have both the motivation and ability to penetrate Britain's most secure government offices? Upon arrival at the Phelps family home in Woking, you're immediately struck by the atmosphere of crisis and barely controlled panic that pervades the household. Percy Phelps, once a confident and ambitious young diplomat, appears to have aged years in a matter of weeks, his face drawn with the strain of professional disaster and personal humiliation. "Holmes, thank God you've come," Phelps exclaims with obvious relief mixed with desperate hope. "My entire career has been destroyed. My reputation is in ruins, and I fear that state secrets of the utmost importance may have fallen into the hands of foreign powers who could use them to Britain's grave disadvantage." Watson immediately notices his former acquaintance's deteriorated condition. "Percy, you appear to be suffering from severe stress and exhaustion. What exactly happened to create such a crisis, and why do you believe Holmes can help recover what the entire Foreign Office has been unable to find?" But Holmes is already observing details that suggest this case involves betrayal from within Britain's own government. 10 weeks ago, I was given the most important assignment of my career, Phelps explains with growing agitation. Lord Holdhurst, the Foreign Secretary himself, entrusted me with copying a highly sensitive naval treaty between Britain and Italy, a document so secret that only a handful of people in the entire government knew of its existence. The significance of this responsibility becomes clear as Phelps continues. The treaty contained details of naval cooperation, strategic port access, and military alliance terms that could shift the entire balance of power in the Mediterranean. If the document fell into the wrong hands, it could compromise Britain's relationships with multiple European powers and potentially lead to war. Holmes leans forward with sharp interest. "You were working alone on such a sensitive document? What security procedures were in place to prevent theft or unauthorized access?" This is where your detective skills become crucial. When state secrets disappear, the theft usually involves either sophisticated espionage or betrayal by trusted insiders. "I was copying the treaty in a private office after hours, when the building should have been nearly empty," Phelps continues. "The work required absolute secrecy and concentration, so I had dismissed my clerk early and was working alone by gaslight. But during a brief absence from my office, the original treaty disappeared completely. the circumstances of the theft reveal disturbing possibilities. When I stepped out for just a few minutes to speak with the commissionaire about some coffee, I left the treaty on my desk, assuming the building was secure and my office locked. But when I returned, the document had vanished without a trace. Watson's practical mind focuses on the immediate logistics. Who else was in the building during the time when the treaty could have been stolen? Were there guards, cleaning staff, or other government employees who might have had access to your office? The answer will reveal the scope of potential suspects and security failures. That's what makes this theft so disturbing, Phelps admits with obvious anguish. The building should have been nearly empty, but there were still a few people present. The commissionaire, a cleaning woman, my clerk who had returned for something he'd forgotten, and my fiancé's brother who had come to walk me home. Holmes's expression grows increasingly grave. You mentioned that only a handful of people knew this treaty existed. How would a thief know to look for it specifically, and how would they gain access to a secured government building after hours? The implications point toward either high-level espionage or insider betrayal. The investigation reveals troubling gaps in security procedures. The Foreign Office's initial inquiry found no evidence of forced entry, no signs of professional burglary, and no clear motive for any of the people who were present in the building. Yet a document of immense strategic value has simply vanished. Think about these circumstances, detective. If there were no signs of external intrusion, doesn't that suggest the theft was carried out by someone with legitimate access to the building? How might personal relationships and family connections complicate the investigation of such a sensitive crime? Holmes begins his analysis by examining the scene of the crime. The office layout, security arrangements, and timing all suggest that this wasn't a random theft by an opportunistic criminal. Someone knew exactly what document to look for, where to find it, and how to remove it without leaving evidence. But more significantly, Holmes continues, studying the building plans and security logs, the theft required knowledge of Foreign Office procedures, building access codes, and the specific location where such sensitive documents would be stored. This points to someone with intimate knowledge of government operations. Watson assists in analyzing the potential suspects. The commissionaire has worked for the government for decades with an impeccable record. The cleaning woman was thoroughly investigated and found to have no connections to foreign powers. That leaves two possibilities: the returning clerk or the fiancé's brother. The breakthrough comes when Holmes discovers inconsistencies in the timeline provided by witnesses. The various accounts of who was where at what time don't align properly. Someone has been deliberately misleading the investigation about their movements during the crucial period when the treaty disappeared. Holmes's investigation reveals shocking evidence of betrayal. Charles Gouraud, the clerk who supposedly returned for forgotten items, actually never left the building at all. He was hiding in the office complex, waiting for an opportunity to steal the treaty when Phelps left it unguarded. But the conspiracy runs deeper than simple theft. Gouraud wasn't working alone. He's been providing information to foreign agents for months, selling state secrets to finance gambling debts and an extravagant lifestyle. The Naval Treaty was his most valuable prize yet. The location of the stolen document becomes a race against time. Gouraud has hidden the treaty while negotiating with foreign purchasers, but he hasn't yet completed the sale. If we can locate him before he transfers the document to enemy agents, we might still prevent a diplomatic catastrophe. Holmes's pursuit leads through London's criminal underworld. Gouraud has connections with professional spies and international arms dealers who specialize in purchasing stolen government documents. But his amateur status as a spy makes him vulnerable to detection by those who understand criminal networks. The climax occurs when Holmes tracks the stolen treaty to its hiding place. Gouraud concealed the document in his own lodgings, believing that the obvious location would be the safest from government investigators. But his nervous behavior and obvious guilt made him easy to identify and follow. The confrontation reveals the full scope of the betrayal. Gouraud admits to stealing not just the Naval Treaty, but dozens of other sensitive documents over several months. His position as a trusted clerk gave him access to state secrets that he sold to the highest bidders among Britain's enemies. The recovery of the Naval Treaty brings both relief and disturbing revelations. The document is returned safely to the Foreign Office, but the investigation reveals systematic security failures that have compromised British intelligence operations across Europe. Percy Phelps faces the complex aftermath of the case. While cleared of any wrongdoing in the treaty's theft, his career has been permanently damaged by the security breach that occurred under his supervision. Professional advancement in the Foreign Office requires not just competence, but an unblemished record. Holmes reflects on the broader implications of the investigation. The Naval Treaty case demonstrated how personal weaknesses, gambling addiction, financial pressure, moral corruption, can be exploited by foreign powers to compromise national security through seemingly trustworthy government employees. The case also revealed the vulnerability of even the most secure government operations. No security system can be stronger than the people who implement it. When trusted insiders become traitors, even the most sensitive state secrets become vulnerable to theft and exploitation. Years later, diplomatic historians would recognize this case as a turning point. The security reforms implemented after the Naval Treaty theft helped protect British government documents during the increasingly tense international situation that would eventually lead to the Great War. Watson drew medical lessons from Percy Phelps' breakdown. The stress of professional disgrace and national security concerns can cause psychological damage as severe as any physical injury. Career destruction affects not just individual lives but entire families and social networks. So tell me, detective, did you suspect that the theft was an inside job before Holmes revealed Gorot's betrayal? What does this case teach us about the vulnerability of government secrets to betrayal by trusted employees? And most importantly, how do we balance the need for security with the practical requirements of government operations that depend on human judgment and integrity? This high-stakes mystery reminds us that national security often depends less on sophisticated protection systems than on the moral character of the individuals trusted with state secrets. The Naval Treaty that could have changed European history was saved not by government security procedures, but by Holmes's ability to understand criminal psychology and trace the complex motivations that drive betrayal. The case also demonstrates how personal financial problems can escalate into matters of international importance when they affect people with access to sensitive information. Charles Gorot's gambling debts became a threat to British national interests because his position gave private weaknesses public consequences. Join me next time as we investigate the final problem, the case that will bring us face to face with the greatest criminal mind of the age, Professor Moriarty, in a confrontation that will test Holmes's abilities to their absolute limits and change the course of our investigations forever.